For 6 long years, the boxing world held its breath, waiting for this one fight. You had two living legends, two once-in-a-generation talents, locked in a high-stakes dance of money, pride, and public demand. In one corner, Manny Pacquiao, the Filipino icon, a whirlwind of fists and fury who had blazed a trail through 8 different weight divisions. In the other, Floyd Money Mayweather Jr., the undefeated defensive wizard, a man who treated the brutal science of boxing less like a fight and more like a chess match. The question wasn't just who would win. It was about which philosophy would come out on top. Pacquiao's relentless, overwhelming aggression or Mayweather's precise, untouchable defense. The world paid record-breaking sums expecting a war, a collision between an irresistible force and an immovable object. But on May 2nd, 2015, they got something else. It wasn't a war. It was a lesson. This is the story of how Floyd Mayweather, on the biggest stage imaginable, didn't just win. He conducted a masterclass and systematically took apart a legend piece by piece. To really get why this was a masterclass, you first have to understand the problem, and the problem's name was Manny Pacquiao. By 2009, Pacquiao was a full-blown phenomenon. He was a southpaw who fought with the ferocity of a swarm of angry bees, throwing punches and bunches from angles you just couldn't prepare for. He had lightning speed, he had concussive power, and he had a chaotic rhythm that opponents simply couldn't solve. After a string of brutal victories, the world was convinced he was the one with the style to finally crack the May Vinci Code. The negotiations for the mega fight became a saga of their own. Talks started and stopped, collapsing over disputes like Mayweather's demand for intense Olympic-style drug testing. For 5 years, it was the same old story. Offers were made, offers were rejected. At one point, Mayweather offered Pacquiao a staggering $40 million flat fee, which Manny turned down, wanting a percentage of the colossal revenue the fight would generate. Fans grew impatient, and many started blaming Floyd, accusing him of ducking the one man who could hand him his first loss. Then, finally, in early 2015, the stars aligned. A chance encounter at a Miami Heat basketball game got the two talking again, and just like that, the fight was on. They agreed to a 60-40 revenue split in Floyd's favor, and the stage was set. The problem that had haunted the sport for half a decade was about to be solved. For Mayweather, the question was simple: how do you solve a problem like Manny Pacquiao? How do you defuse a bomb when you have no idea how big the explosion will be? For years, everyone said the key to beating Manny Pacquiao was solving the puzzle of his left hand. It was his money punch, the knockout shot, and it came with blinding speed from that tricky southpaw angle. Mayweather didn't just solve the puzzle, he tore it to shreds. His main tool was the straight right hand, the perfect weapon against a southpaw. And Floyd's is one of the best in history. He didn't just throw it, he timed it perfectly. As Pacquiao lunged in, Mayweather would pivot and fire a laser straight right down the middle, catching Pacquiao clean. That punch did two things. It scored points, and more importantly, it was a deterrent. It made Pacquiao think twice about charging in, knowing that a perfectly timed counter was waiting for him. Defensively, Mayweather made smart adjustments to his famous Philly shell. Against a southpaw, the traditional shoulder roll can leave you open to the lead left. So, Floyd used his lead elbow and forearm to parry and block Pacquiao's shots. The moments that got the crowd roaring were Pacquiao's flurries on the ropes, but if you watch them closely, you see the truth. The vast majority of those punches hit nothing but arms, shoulders, and elbows. Mayweather was a fortress, and Pacquiao simply couldn't find a way in. The punch stats tell the brutally honest story. Mayweather landed 148 of 435 punches, a crisp 34% connect rate. Pacquiao, for all his aggression, landed only 81 of 429 punches, a measly 19%. His own jab, which he needed to close the distance, was basically useless, landing only 9% of the time. Mayweather had taken away every single one of Pacquiao's weapons, turning the most feared offensive force in a generation into a frustrated man chasing shadows. The real climax of this dismantling wasn't a knockdown or a dramatic punch. It was the slow, dawning realization on Manny Pacquiao's face that his best just wasn't good enough. By the middle rounds, his frustration was obvious. After a flicker of success in the fourth round that got the crowd hyped, Mayweather immediately took back control. Every time Pacquiao charged in, he was met with a clinch. Mayweather, bigger and stronger, would lean on him, smother his attacks, and drain his gas tank. This wasn't just defense, it was psychological warfare. In the corners, the story was clear. Floyd Mayweather Sr. was keeping his son calm and on plan. In Pacquiao's corner, legendary trainer Freddie Roach was desperately searching for an answer that just wasn't there. He told his fighter to be more aggressive, but more aggression just led to more misses. Pacquiao later revealed he'd suffered a shoulder injury in camp that flared up in the third round.
For numbing my shoulder, but we respect the decision of the commission.
While the torn rotator cuff was real and required surgery, on that night, it felt like a footnote to the strategic beatdown that was unfolding. The real injury was his inability to solve the puzzle standing right in front of him. When the final bell rang, Mayweather confidently raised his glove. Pacquiao, looking bewildered, went back to his corner and told his team he thought he was winning the fight. The crowd, which had booed Mayweather's defensive style all night, held out for a miracle from the judges. There was no miracle. The scorecards were just a formality: 118 to 110, 116 to 112, and 116 to 112, all for Floyd Mayweather by a clear, unanimous decision. The immediate reaction was disappointment. The fight of the century hadn't been the slugfest people craved. Many called it boring, but for students of the sport, it was beautiful. It was a historic display of pure boxing intelligence. This wasn't rock'em sock'em robots. This was the sweet science in its purest form. In the days after, the story of Pacquiao's shoulder injury grew, with some using it to explain his performance. The Nevada Athletic Commission was even dragged into a controversy over whether the injury was properly disclosed. But Mayweather brushed it off, pointing out that he was also injured and that real champions find a way to win, no matter what.
I had injuries also.
And that's exactly what he did. He took the most explosive offensive fighter of the era and completely disarmed him. He didn't just beat Manny Pacquiao, he destroyed the myth that relentless offense could always overwhelm sublime defense. The fight of the century may not have delivered the bloody brawl some people wanted, but it gave us something much more important: a definitive answer. It was proof that in the ring, IQ can beat speed, precision can overcome power, and that a defensive genius can absolutely dismantle a Hall of Fame legend. Floyd Mayweather didn't run from the biggest challenge of his career. He met it on his terms in the middle of that ring and solved the puzzle that no one else could. It wasn't just a win, it was a 12-round lecture on the art of hitting and not getting hit. It was the moment Floyd Mayweather cemented his legacy, not just as an undefeated champion, but as one of the most brilliant boxing minds the sport will ever see.